You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seatbelts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal cast. And this week, we're going a little bit more on the LGS side. Less on the vendor side on this one, because we're basically taking a look at holiday strategies.
Yep.
Vendors still keep the same strategy year-round. Holidays doesn't impact it too much. So now, all right, as a brick and mortar where I have to cater to holidays as a traditional retail, what do we do? So with that, let's take it away.
Yep. And we've talked about this. We do something like every year for this.
Yeah.
We talk about various sales, new products, etc. So this episode will probably be pretty short overall. When you go back and look historically, things don't really change too much. But, we thought we'd run through a couple of questions. And the first one I thought of was that, in some years past, the strategies on the whole have changed either for economic reasons or product release season. So immediately, was there an overhaul to how this particular holiday season is going to be run compared to others?
So this particular holiday season is different for us primarily for inventory reasons. And that is that we have started carrying less like Magic, for example, and more Pokemon, One Piece, that kind of stuff. So we still carry all those games. It's just that what we carry more. So we've actually kind of had to change things strategy-wise and focus on those in terms of advertising. And those we care less about the set release. Set releases are infrequent. When there are holiday set releases for like Pokemon, obviously you do it up as big as you can. But the biggest thing is, it's been ignoring product release season as there's too many to keep up with, or we're in games where we don't have to worry about that this time of year. Everything else is basically kind of the same. One of the big differences, and this is something, LGS has struggled with, vendors typically don't, there's actually an additional payroll tax on us that is being levied this year that was not last year. So we actually are planning our hours around that.
Okay.
So as far as like extra help, non-salaried management, stuff like that. So it's actually kind of resulted in a little bit of a change where I think this is positive. We've tried to give people that are on like holiday break more hours. Like this week, we've got some early for Thanksgiving, gave them a few more hours, and it's kind of like train them up so that, okay, now next summer, they've already expressed an interest in pursuing like management when they're not at school. So it's been really nice for training employees, but it's not something that we've really had to change, because of a game. That one is more economic reasons, but that's the main.
Yep, which is kind of the point of the question is you can't predict economic factors.
They're going to happen.
Exactly, and that will change from year to year. So this is good to kind of figure out. To talk about the waxing and waning of games. So Magic has fallen off for you. Are you going to be fire selling Magic or any other games?
So there's a couple of like quote good sets of like Weiss Schwartz with good IPs that we're fire sailing, but for the most part, what we've actually started doing, and this is something that we've been doing for about 2 years now. And this is the first year that we said, okay, we want to double what we're putting into it. And that was actually a coupon for a free pack of Pokemon. Because there's actually like every holiday season, like some of the suburbs out here have their coupon magazines that go out. And you basically donate to get ad space, and that's where your coupon's printed. And that's something that we've actually kind of started doing with games we want to build a community for.
Oh, okay.
Because, if someone's ever been curious, all right, they'll come in and get a pack and, oh, well, I'm here and I can't play it without this extra product.
Got it.
Now I have to buy the extra product. But that's been how we've kind of pushed some games that aren't good at other stores that are for us. Like we have a Card Fight Vanguard community. It's only like 8 to 10 people, but it's still they're a dedicated community. And that's something we started advertising. We were doing it, and they showed up. And it's not something we've ever thought about really fire sailing, but it is something where we will do giveaways for games we get away from. But it's like, if you purchase X dollars in this product, get this added on.
Yep.
For like an old, at this point, I think it's 3 years ago. I think it's random like Eldritch Moon like era packs and stuff like that. Yeah, we have them and we want to sell them, but nobody wants to buy them. So hey, if you come in and you buy $150 of Magic Sealed, you'll get this pack for free. And that's been good as far as, moms and families that appreciate it, and you get a little bit of an upsell on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nothing as far as like fire sailing or anything like that. It's mostly just retention at this point. Is the big thing, and part of that's because we've been where we are for a while. So
yeah. So as games wane and others pick up in popularity, you want to focus more on like Pokemon, for instance. Does that also change the facing that you're doing for the holiday season?
It does, yeah. And that's, again, if you only have so many windows that are facing a street, you need to, as well as possible, populate those windows with stuff you sell so people driving by it catches their eye. So we have an entire 8-foot window that's Pokemon plushies.
Got it.
Because everybody knows Pokemon. Yep. So there's like a row of Pikachus, a row of Eevee, like the ones that people are going to see and know. And that's something that we have started doing as well is, hey, if this is something that, and I'll say it again, specifically Pokemon, because it is such a child-friendly game, you do get just random families that walk in, and it's nice to have something to advertise that, where, Dad's driving down the street, he sees it, okay, I'm going to pull in, let me check it out. And that's something we have definitely started doing, yeah.
Okay, so while we're talking about walk-in traffic, do you try and bring in more walk-in traffic for seasonal purchases, and at the same time, are you looking to grow like your customer or player base during this time of year, or are you just focused on sales?
So if I had to give one, I would say it's probably sales, but we actually are in an area that is more and more apartments are being built up that are awful to look at, but that means more new people in the area. So foot traffic actually kind of is important for us because it's like a mini downtown area almost, where there's, a couple of restaurants, nice street with bars, stuff like that. So that foot traffic is really important to us. And that's what the plushies have actually helped. Now, as far as like growing customer base, so the coupon helps with that because it does get people in that are just gamers. We've actually, I think I've said this before, we have people that are like, oh, I live like literally the subdivision right behind your building and I didn't know you were here. And that happens. And then those people, they're walk-ins that become a customer. The thing that we really gear for during the holidays, though, is, and this kind of piggybacks on the, coupon, is we want to get families of potential customers in. Because the customer realistically at this point, unless they're very new to the area, already has their LGS. We have a lot of options here. I think there's still about 32 within a 20-mile radius of actual downtown.
Okay.
So, we try to get their families because those are going to be the people that might actually make the difference in our holiday sales.
Got it.
Is I happen to be local to here. Oh, I'm over the age of 40 and I love printed media. So I bought this coupon book and I found you. And that's been something that's actually been really good for us. And I think piggybacking on your earlier question of, economic factors, one of the reasons that I have been suggesting and glad we're taking the shift into Pokemon is it because there's two groups of people that collect Pokemon that don't care, and it's kids and grandparents. So they'll spend their money regardless. But yeah, it's a little bit of walk-in and growing an incidental customer base, kind of, if that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah, which is perfectly fine. And the holiday season is also not a point in time where you're also trying to build your player base out. That's going to happen before and after because you just don't have the time. So the last question I have here is, speaking of the player base, when it comes to the holiday season, are you scheduling events as frequently as you were before? And if things are slowing down, is it because attendance will shrink during the holidays? Or would it be because you want to make sure you have the ability to kind of reface properly for sales? Because if people can't see it, they can't buy it.
Yeah. So we do slow down on a lot of the big events that we try for on the weekends. We still have our weeklies and stuff, but like every store, you're going to see a little bit less attendance. It's the holidays, whatever you expect. There's Modern doesn't fire the week of Christmas because everyone's home. But we've done fewer of the big ones, and we've gotten, I'll be frank, we've gotten a bit lax in how well we're policing the events. Not that we really need to or anything, but there may be some judge calls that don't happen because we're not around, stuff like that, which does impede it. But for the most part, it's just the natural progression of the holidays. You're going to have more time to face the store because there's going to be less events firing. Okay. It's Tuesdays is the night I always reference that there's like 3 stores that get like 30 people for Modern. None of them fire this time of year because it's just, man, I just got off work at 5. It's pitch black out. I don't want to go play Magic. I want to go home.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that's fine. So you were basically counting on that kind of waning attendance. There's really not much you have to do, and then you take your opportunity as a store to do what you need with that time and the hours. You might just not reface the play space or certain areas of the store.
Exactly.
So this way, if something does end up firing, you're still able to accommodate.
Yeah, and I will say one thing. We have one event that we do during the holidays, and it's actually a day at one of the local grade schools for like a how to play for Pokemon. Just hey guys, here's something fun. Hang out, and hopefully you get your first taste free, and you're a customer for life.
Absolutely, it makes sense. And that's really it for the questions that I had coming into this year, because like I said, we've gone over this kind of enough where the day to day and the year to year we've covered enough. There are some unique things that happen every year, and that's kind of what we wanted to hit on. And as different companies change their models and their release schedules, that's something that could impact. I know my LGS just refaced, and I don't know with what the main display when you walk in, but they reface it quarterly anyway. So it's hard for me to tell if this is the big reface for the quarter or one for the holidays, because right now it's not disparate. It is very much themed. I just don't know what the theme is yet. It's still in progress. They're still working on it. But I think last year was a Games Workshop reface because they released a bunch of kits.
Yep.
So that impacted that frontage for the store because they wanted to have those kits out. And that's the kind of conversation I wanted to have today. So I'm sure there are things I missed. Is there anything in particular that would stand out that we haven't talked about?
Not that I can recall, really, no.
Okay. What do you guys think about like the window painting and stuff? Is that stuff?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's a great way to let employees express themselves if you let them fill it out. We kind of, it's one of those, here's a glass door in the middle and there's glass panes around and on top of it. That, like, we let employees paint on there like whatever they want as long as it's not obscene, obviously. And we have that like changing every month.
Oh, okay.
It's just a really cool way to make really bad puns about your products, which I'm a big fan of. Here's a bunch of Pokemon, or here's something from Pal World, or something, it's just a really cool way to like relate to your space and try to get people in. We had one guy come in and ask about comics because it was Batman. So I got to say, no, sorry, the DC deck builder. Comics are, down the road here, but yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
But all right. That's fine. Like we talked about in the pre-show, this is something that's probably going to be pretty tight getting into the holiday season in terms of conversation. So I'm going to move on if you are.
Yeah, I am good to start with picks. And boy, this might be one of the most me picks I've ever made on this cast.
I would agree.
It's an old border card from before there were foils and it blows up lands. And that is Urza's Saga Wildfire. Now, for those of you that don't know, this might be the greatest sorcery ever printed. I'm not considering Time Twister. Wildfire might be better. It is 2 red and 4. Each player sacrifices 4 lands, then Wildfire deals 4 damage to each creature. Now, it is worth noting this does not kill a Terravore when each of you sacrifice 4 lands. He's an 8/8. So the reason I'm picking this is actually kind of piggybacking on something I touched on last week, which was that if the economy continues to be as bad as it is, which is obviously something we've mentioned on the podcast before, people are going to want to engage in their hobbies in a more affordable way. And I think that pre-modern might actually be one of the ways for people that are like our age that want to engage more with Magic when we were that age. And I think it's a way for people to affordably go into this. Now, this is a card which is a bulk rare because boy, does it have a lot of printings. But this is, again, the type of thing that is probably keen for a pop. Pre-modern is taking off in a big way in the Midwest. There's going to be other areas, I assume, and frankly, it's the last fan-made format we have, I guess.
Yeah, for right now.
I mean, if they'd just let us run Legacy, that would be great. And while it is that, I think it's ripe for opportunity on some of the cards like this that maybe, they're fine and they're a known quantity, but they're not necessarily something that you would, again, filter out from bulk or anything like that. This is the kind of card that if you run a store and you have the, dollar rare minimum, you will sell 10 of these a week at $1. Absolutely. On your EDH nights, there's going to be that guy. That guy is going to get rid of the card because he thinks it's terrible, and then that guy is going to come back because he wants to try the card. So it's something that I think, especially for a card like Wildfire, where there are other versions in modern era printing, so there is this presence of mind about it. Versions like this, especially for pre-modern, are something that I think would be worth investing in. I also think that this one may be a little strange because it blows up all the lands, but I mean, when we were growing up in Magic, we were fine with that, and I still am. You play a Wasteland format, so you're kind of okay with it.
I was going to play the Wildfire deck in Standard after Ravnica was released.
God, it was so good!
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as Vor. Vor was insane. God, it was good. Yeah, but we digress.
Yeah.
So now I will say the one thing that is interesting about it is timeline. So I don't know when it will happen, and I hope that there is not a pre-modern bump because the economy is still not great. But I would say sometime within the next 6 to 12 months, one of the interesting things you can see here is that we've kind of been plateaued since about 2020.
Yeah.
When you take a look at the graph. So with that, I mean, maybe 2021-ish. But we have steadiness on the price, so it's something that I think it's probably not going to go down even with another printing. But it may take a little bit to go up because of the quantity that is out there. Urza Saga, by today's standards, was not highly printed, but by back then standards, boy, was it a doozy.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my one concern about it is, I will be frank, timeline, because who knows if or when. I just feel like 90% when, not if.
Yeah, I like Wildfire as a card. I've liked it obviously in Standard, like I said, when it was put into 8th edition, and I like it in Commander because it does a bunch of stuff. The problem is that it doesn't target lands, so you can't get rid of problem lands. You're just going to get rid of some generics. But 4 damage is also an amount of damage that can kind of clear out the board, so you are getting both halves here. It is mass land destruction, but it's 4 lands each, so it doesn't set everybody back too far. And as long as you're not ramping into this on turn 4, it's fairly palatable in that format as well.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't... I get why people don't like it in Commander, but it is a Commander-worthy card at the end of the day. There are better Wraths for 6, for sure. Farewell, for instance, or higher mana value in black and white. You got a Chroma's Vengeance at 6, which does more. But at the end of the day, when you take a look at pre-modern, there are still decks that play this. They are not few and far between, but they are dedicated to what you think. So again, I think you're right in that it's a when, not if situation, because that format is still being iterated on. It's still being solved.
Yeah.
So something like this has definitely, with a pedigree behind it, has the opportunity to pop kind of whenever. All right, and for my pick, I'm going back to the well of dinosaurs. and we are looking at Wrathful Raptors today. And if you don't know what that is, that's fine. It did come out of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander product. So Wrathful Raptors is 4 and a red for a 5/5 dinosaur. Keyword trample. And whenever a dinosaur you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur.
This card is so good.
It is very, very good. I added this to my notes at release, so November 22nd of 2023. Card King was buying 219 at $1. They had 8 for sale at $2, and TCG Market was $3.12. It's been on my list for about a year at this point. When I was taking my notes, CK was buying 26 at 3, and they were selling 2 at 6. As of right now, they are buying 30 at 3, and the retail is still the same. Sorry, 26 at 3. 30 is the full art. So the numbers are still the same. The TCG player numbers are that there are 110 listings for a market of $3.37, up from beginning of the week when I took my notes when there were 109 listings for a market of $3.31. So we're seeing a little bit of movement everywhere, and CK staying pretty flat, which we kind of like. We don't need buy lists to really make a jump all the time. When it comes to this card, what is it doing in Commander? And the answer is basically dinosaurs in the grand scheme. Everything about this card literally says dinosaurs, and that's how it works. So cool. But when we break it down and we actually look at this card within the format a little more carefully, we see things like as with a number of impactful dinosaurs, this is a card that really only works inside the Kindred decks. Either mono dinosaurs or something typal like Morphon, which we do see as one of the more popular commanders on Rec. And when we actually sit down and we investigate EDH Rec, we can see pretty clearly that Wrathful Raptors plays in Dino deck, which is fantastic. Morphon is there, so typal is a thing. I think Ramos might also be here too because it's 5 colors. But at the end of the day, people are just slamming this in like Gishath and Gabi, Nestward, and stuff like that. So dinosaurs are a hugely popular tribe overall. Our audience is rather wide, and we get new pieces dripped into non-Ixalan standard sets here and there, and that kind of renews and re-ups interest on this card overall. We just got some chonkers in Foundations. They basically made, a double crawworm?
Yep.
It's a dinosaur. That's like a 12/6 or something like that, or whatever. It's insane. And that's the kind of stuff we get that re-ups interest or renews interest in cards that literally just work with dinosaurs. People just kind of buy in on them. We did look at Silverclad Ferocidons before, and this pick kind of plays into the quote stacks unquote idea of the dinosaur tribe that can allow you to clear the way and swing through. Though with enough setup, your dinosaurs can just ping people out of the game with something like Pyrohemia with Wrathful Raptors, and that kind of makes it really aggressive and really slanted towards stacks and obnoxious to deal with, just like Silverclad Ferocidons. Not making a lot of friends like that. But based on popularity of Wrathful Raptors across the myriad of dinosaur commanders, we're looking at a card that's a bit more foundational because it's not as oppressive as Silverclad Ferocidons. Yes, we're de-incentivizing combat while we're building up our forces, so it's kind of Pillow 40, but at the same time, this offers a bit of political play because the damage trigger can target anything or anyone, so you can work with other players to solve problems. You're not just looking to remove somebody from the game with a trigger like you would Silverclad Ferocidons. This opens up a lot more opportunity and a lot more unique play that kind of incentivizes more conversation at the table and more engagement rather than just pinging the table down with Pyrohemia. So, they're powerful, they're flexible, and it adds a bit of reach and political play to an otherwise straightforward math is for blockers kind of deck. And so it just kind of plays well and plays perfectly inside every dinosaur deck. And that's really all there is to this card. It doesn't combo out incredibly well. It doesn't ask players to just sacrifice things again and again like Silverclad Ferocidons does. It allows you to remove planeswalkers, players, creatures from the game, so it's kind of a problem-solving card. You can make it a problem if you want. Other people can make it a problem if they want when they put something like, not passive, Pariah on it.
Yeah.
When all damage that's dealt to you is dealt to Wrathful Raptors, and then the Raptors just nug something out. there are a lot of cool and interesting and fun things that can be done with this card, so I really like it overall, and that's why I think it's very appealing for the Dinosaurs deck. It's not just a keyword soup like Zatalpa is. It does something cool and interesting. When we're looking at the timeline for this card and we're taking a look at that data, when I was taking my notes, I found there are 278 copies total across all TCG player listings. Then again, sorted by 50 listings. On page 1, there were 32 near mint copies at $3.97. So we're looking at a card that just churns to $4 very, very quickly. Then on page 2, there's 18 copies at $3.75, but there's $1.50 shipping on those. And then on page 3, there are 13 copies at $4.07 with $5 shipping. And page 3 is the last page here. So what we're kind of seeing is this masked information of like, oh, the market's $3.30 something plus like $2 shipping. So it is actually already a $5 card on the front or close to that. Now, this does sell around 8 copies a day. So stock would drain in slightly over a month, but because shipping starts to severely impact the cost, like we just talked about, I don't believe will actually sell through. Instead, in that time, we'll see this move from a card whose market is $3.30 to a card whose market price is close to $4. And then once there, we'll most likely see a price correction and a possible vertical spike in price so people can sell their copies at $6 with $1.99 shipping. And the numbers just kind of realign instead of just kind of like cheating market price with weird shipping numbers. I don't think we'll be able to exit to buy lists for at least 3 months as demand at the vendor level seems pretty light. So there's no need to adjust cost and quantity at the moment, which is what we're seeing at CK.
Yeah.
They can get them at their prices and their quantities, and that's like the numbers they need. Unless people stop buying Wrathful Raptors or all of a sudden everybody starts buying Wrathful Raptors, we're probably just going to see it float at about, I'd say they might reduce down to 20 if things stay the way they are at $3, but they're probably not going to push that number up too high. No matter what, we're looking at churn at about a month or two on this card if you buy from TCG Player and you just shove back in. When it comes to reprint equity, we need to see another dinosaur-centric Commander product for this to see a reprint, and I don't think we're getting that anytime soon based on the 2025 release schedule. We can now start to look at picks accordingly, and this is going to be the first one. And then we combine that with WotC's desire to keep like a critical mass, quote-unquote, of dinosaurs relegated to Ixalan, and that means we probably won't see any dinosaur-centric cards reprinted into Commander decks for a fairly long time. Unless we move to another plane that is also dinosaur-centric. There's not a problem with that. But that's just kind of the way the dinosaur-centric stuff works. It's Ixalan's thing. And that's it. We obviously didn't get a dinosaur commander deck with foundations, despite the fact that there were a handful in here. There's just not enough. There's not a critical mass. They're not going to do it here. Maybe in a supplemental down the road that doesn't get printed into standard. Who knows? But I think we're kind of locked right now. Buy quantity-wise, I have one of these after opening the Dinosaur Commander deck, and I think I picked up another one for Commander play, but I'd honestly be happy with about 6 to 8, and I would be moving them locally. Because, and I know I've joked about this before, but people were like, not bemoaning, but were aggressively happy about the guy who showed up with like Jurassic Park deck last year. I mentioned that on cast a couple of times. So I have locals that play into this kind of stuff. So for me, I'd be happy to have them in a binder and move them locally. Otherwise, I'd just sit them on TCG Player with a market price over $4 and just wait until sales on page 1 get there, because that's what happens. The market price on this card goes to $4 very, very, very quickly when you're looking at the numbers. So that's where I am this week.
So I do want to piggyback on one thing you said about this card that actually makes me love it. And that is that because there are dinosaurs and foundations, I think it is more likely that we may see more dinosaurs on other planes where it's like, dinosaurs make sense, whatever, fuck them.
Yeah.
But that's not where they reprint. If they do that, they print new dinosaurs, which means more eyes on dinosaurs. This card can get discovered more. So that I actually see that as a positive.
I do too.
That they're in foundations, but I don't think this is, the Ixalan dinosaurs are seemingly Ixalan's dinosaurs.
Exactly.
My one pet peeve though is it that it is not called Wrathful Raptors?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it, but yeah, sad.
Puns. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. Nothing to
I
be
love
sorry
them.
about. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree, and I like the idea that we do get dinosaurs, and we know we got Zatalpa in
Yeah.
Foundations, right? We got a key dinosaur that we hadn't seen a reprint in a minute, and so that does put eyes on it. The only downside to all of that is that we don't get the legends that often.
Yeah.
We get kind of the grunts for the deck.
Yeah, like the grunts and the lords, and I don't know that we have like an uncommon level dinosaur lord that I know of.
Yeah, like, and some of them, well, there is an uncommon level, like literal lord. It costs like 7 or 8 mana. It's from the original Ixalan block, and it has an activated ability to make more dinosaurs.
That's so bad.
It is obnoxiously bad.
Wow.
But when you take a look at the commanders for dinosaurs overall,
Yeah, it's
they're
like
literally
Zatalpa, Gishath.
Puntlaza,
Yeah.
and then basically some of the Jurassic Park stuff and Morphon, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
We're not like light on dinosaurs overall, but without a commander in a set,
Yeah.
it's hard to see a lot of
Support down the line. It's
Yeah,
it'll be
and-
like 5 to 6 cards.
Yeah, and I don't want. I'm using the word a lot in this sentence is doing some heavy lifting. We're not going to see a lot of new interest in dinosaurs without the signposts. Zatalpa is cool; it's a legend, but you can't build mono white dinosaurs, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
You will see renewed interest in this. I absolutely agree, but without, even just a Gruul dinosaur, we're not going to get a whole lot. Like when they put that Atali into standard, the flip Atali. Like, that was a huge renewal for dinosaurs because that's another commander. It's in 2 of the primary colors.
Yeah.
People get to open that Atali, experience it for the first time, and say, oh, I want to build this thing. It looks dope. You get that. In Foundations, when you open, like, Thrashing Brontodon, I mean, it's not in here. It's just an example at the top of my head of, like, a grunt in the deck, like for the nth time, like cool, whatever. Tranquil Frillback. This is a card that could be anything. It doesn't have to be a dinosaur. It just happens to be a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bring us into the tribe.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think, again, I agree with you, everything you said. I think there will always be that draw into dinosaurs when you do get dinosaurs in the set. 100%.
Yeah.
I just think when we see the commanders,
that's when we know it's
we're
big time. Yeah, that's
exactly.
fair.
Yep. And I'm not worried about that. It would be nice to get to see some of that stuff off of Ixalan because we've gone back once now. Going back again is probably not going to happen for a while. But
Probably
at the end
2026 at this rate.
Yeah,
Fuck.
but at the end of the day, we also don't need a dinosaur-centric plane every year. It is a well you can dip your pen in, but you don't need to do that every year. There's some other cool stuff you can take a look at, and I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, do it when a new Jurassic Park movie comes out. You can just be done then.
Yeah.
That's like every 3 years. Great.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure they're working on the next one. So, like, there you go. Exactly. All right. Anything else for this week?
No.
All right. So, for at MtG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, X, and Blue Sky, we are at Halt I Am Reptar. You are
At Damon_Thurston.
We'll see you next week.